Hey coffee lovers, in this video I'm going to show you how to make the most delicious full-bodied cup of coffee you've ever had. Seriously. So it's important to make the distinction between immersion and percolation in terms of brewing techniques. Immersion brewing is when you soak or steep your coffee grinds and leave it to brew for a period of time. The extraction process happens where the water is completely steeped with ground coffee from the beginning to the end, like a French press. Percolation flows steadily coffee and gravity pulls the water through a filter. The extraction happens as the water passes through the ground coffee. Now I love the French press and I love a pour over for different reasons. With the French press immersion brewing, as many of you know, you get a great extraction as the coffee grinds stay in contact with the water for a long period of time. It gives you body, depth of flavor, rich mouthfeel. But the drawbacks are that it takes nearly 10 minutes from start to finish. And even though my latest technique that you can watch on our website removes most of the sludgy effects of not having a paper filter, and it's great, I do also enjoy the clarity of a pour over. Now, a pour over, due to the paper filter, does produce a much cleaner, crisper cup of coffee. Because you have to add water at intervals and wait for the drawdown, it does also take time. And more importantly, you need a more exact or thoughtful technique. There's little room for error on a pour over, as the paper filter can get clogged, the water can be too hot and over extract, the grinds can be too coarse so you don't get a full extraction. So both techniques can be mastered over time and produce great results if you have the time and the patience. Some will like the full body of the French press, and some will like the clarity and the fruit and the pleasant acidity of the pour over. But I've discovered a way to capture the best of both worlds. And although it is immersion brewing, we are going to use a paper filter to capture the sediment and the sludge. And this technique won't take more than 3 minutes. It's very forgiving in terms of water temperature, grind size, or oops, you let it steep too long. And the best thing is the results. A deep, rich, full-bodied cup of coffee that has the clarity of a pour over in 3 minutes brewing time, and you don't have the mess of the French press to clean up. So the brewer that I'm using for this technique is called the Clever. It's a steep and brew style of brewer that looks just like a pour over cone, but it has a cool little device at the bottom. It's actually a stopper so that no water passes through until you place the brewer either on a cup or a small carafe or pot. When you place the brewer on the cup, it triggers the stopper so that liquid can flow. The one drawback to this device that you may have read about or seen, on the internet is that small coffee grinds, also known as fines, clog up the paper filter, and they delay the drawdown. It gets clogged a lot, which produces an uneven extraction and potentially a bitter result. Well, I've solved that. So first, let me show you the entire process from start to finish, and then I'll break down the steps and print out the recipe and give you some tips at the end. First, make sure you have all the necessary equipment ready to go. You'll need a digital scale that can measure grams, and preferably with a timer. I do recommend the Akaya Pearl. Next, you will need a quality grinder, not a spice grinder or a hand crank thing or a food processor, a real burr style grinder. And you can see the one that we carry on our website by Fellow. In my opinion, it's the best for the money. And it also incorporates an ionizer, so you don't have to spray your beans down, because the ionizer cuts down on the static electricity, and it's very quiet. Awesome. You will need a water kettle, although it's not absolutely necessary. You could just boil water. Cool thing about the water kettles is that many of them you can control the temperature. Of course, you will need a Clever brewer, and you'll need the number 4 Melita style paper filters with the flat bottom and a small spoon. Okay, let's make some coffee. So now that you've seen the process, let's break it down into steps. The grind I'm using for a medium to dark roast is finer than you would think. A few clicks towards the finer side from the center or from the midpoint of your grinder. You don't want to go coarse like kosher salt, which is what many will tell you, on videos. You don't want to go too fine either like espresso because that could clog. So medium grind is good, but I like going a little bit more towards the finer side. You will find that you won't clog and you'll get a better extraction. The water temperature should be around 205 to 208 degrees Fahrenheit, or just off the boil. If you don't have a temperature controlled kettle, that's fine. Just have it come to a rolling boil and let it sit for like a minute or two. Just under boiling is perfect for medium and dark roasts. Next, we're going to rinse the paper filter inside the brewer. So use warm water, tap is fine. I like to hold one side of the filter against the brewer and then turn it so that the filter stays seated inside the brewer. You want the filter as even as possible and pressed around the sides of the brewer without any gaps or spaces if you can help it. Place the brewer on your scale and tare it to 0. Now you want to pour your hot water. This is where we differ. Most brew recipes, you put the coffee in and then you pour the water on top, but that can potentially clog the filter. So this is really interesting. You're going to pour the water in first. So pour up to 250 grams. You can adjust these numbers, but this is perfect for the 1 cup recipe. You can do 2 cups in this brewer, but it'll be very close to the top. So you'll see at the end of the video, when I give you some tips, I recommend less water in coffee so that it doesn't spill over, but still produces 2 nice cups. This is for 1 cup brew. Once you have your hot water in the brewer, we're going to pour our coffee grinds into the brewer. Measure it out. It's 15 grams of coffee. Now you can measure out the beans. So you're going with 15 grams of coffee to 250 grams of water. The first thing you want to do is start your timer. So you start the timer and then put the coffee in. Once the grinds are in the coffee, use a spoon to just gently move the grinds under the water. You aren't stirring. You just want to make sure all the grinds are wet and in suspension. Don't stir it. Now you just wait until your timer hits 2 minutes. The coffee is steeping. Extraction is taking place as the grinds slowly fall to the bottom and they form a bed of soaked grinds. And then when you draw down the liquid will pass through this bed, extracting even more and very evenly. That's the key. At 2 minutes, we want to break the crust. So right at 2 minutes, we break the crust on the top and give it a gentle stir. This is going to cause the grinds that were sitting on the top to fall slowly into that coffee bed. So just a gentle stir. And now I'm just going to wait 30 seconds for them to settle. At 2 minutes and 30 seconds, You can place your brewer on top of your cup or your small pot. You're going to see a fast, even drawdown. It takes about 30 seconds. And I like to give the brewer a gentle swirl, just a little gentle swirl, just to help settle that coffee bed. I use this 30 seconds to steam my oat milk, which takes about 20 seconds. And that's it. Perfect cup of coffee. Add my oat milk. I add a little bit of foam. This is the best full-bodied, rich, yet crisp, balanced cup you've ever made. And it's all in about 3 minutes. I'm going to give you a few tips here at the end. Hope you join us in our disruption of the coffee industry as we convert coffee lovers who love pods and K-cups or drip coffee makers, or coffee drinkers that don't want to take 10 minutes to make coffee. We're going to turn them or convert them into coffee makers who will enjoy making the best cup quickly, cleanly, and super delicious. Also, check out our fresh roasted coffees, roasted here in Charleston, shipped to you the next day. And we have other videos in our gear, including the Clever French press, the best grinder on the market, and a whole lot more. So enjoy the tips, and I'll see you at the next video.